The only thing I could think about was that I was pregnant and I needed to keep my composure. I remember a bright morning, but after that, I don't remember anything at all. He was treated just mercilessly. I don't know, a horrible death. Jesus knew it would happen, and yet he did nothing. I ask myself questions like, what should I do? How can I remain faithful to you, God? Yes, we are believers. We are supposed to forgive. But if a Russian soldier came to my house, I know that I would have killed him. No problem at all. No questions asked. When I was faced with the thought that I very well may die right now, I didn't think about how little I traveled. I thought about how little I told people about Christ. And here we are. And honestly, it is a very specific and special sort of opportunity to serve such a God. Probably every Ukrainian, we remember exactly what happened on February 24th. How was this for you? This is an interesting story, actually, because I went to bed at around 4 a.m. I was then 38 weeks pregnant. I couldn't sleep, so I got up, went to the kitchen, sat down at our table, opened the very diary that you gave me, and wrote my dreams there. What kind of office we dreamed of. It was like a conversation with God. It was such a special time, lasting about an hour. Well, then I went back to sleep. An hour later, my husband and I were woken by an incredible sound resounding in the sky, like a fighter jet. My husband got up quickly, went to refuel the car, buy groceries, and the first thing that I did was get to our dear Life Center. I needed to see how the girls, the volunteers and clients, to see how they were. I couldn't think of anything else. I was just thinking, I'm pregnant, I need to calm down and keep calm. I knew that we had a car, we had money saved up, and if God allows, we could survive this. But the girls, they have no one to worry about taking care of them. It was just my number one priority to find out how they were and to decide how we could help them further. Once my husband came back, I cried so much. He told me, don't be afraid. But I was not crying for myself. I was crying for them and our Life Center. I had such a heart, such a deep feeling of responsibility for them, and such heartbreak for them. How did you manage the fear? Two things. First, I didn't allow myself to say that I was afraid or even think about it, because I was pregnant. I did not want to give birth because I have a blood disease which requires me to be in the hospital to give birth. So for this reason, I really tried to keep myself together. I also didn't read the news for the first 2 weeks at all. This really helped me. The first 2 weeks I didn't read anything, I didn't know anything. Then when I found out about Bucha and all of the terrifying things that were happening across our Ukraine, it just came in pieces and I felt, what did you do physically when you were pregnant and the rockets started falling? I read Psalms practically all the time and spent time with my little one and just tried to keep calm. We have this bunker in our garage, but later we figured we really shouldn't stay there because we could just be smothered if something happened. Like a grave, like crawling into a grave. It would just be better to stay in the house. But the first week, we went down there. Of course, in the winter as it was not equipped at all. So that's how it kind of went for the first week. So the first week, you just had to hide. Yes. God allowed for this war to happen. How do you understand this question of why? Honestly, I don't present these kinds of questions to God. About 2 years ago, we lost my mother at too young of an age. This was an extremely painful question, which we wanted to know the answer to, because she was an amazing Christian who really poured into the lives of so many people, and I just couldn't understand why did God do this. Then I found an answer for myself. Jesus had a cousin, John the Baptist, and he died. The only man in the world who understood his mission, and he was treated just mercilessly. I don't know, a horrible death. Jesus knew it would happen, and yet he did nothing. Just why? And as I analyze this, especially in the time of war, I pose the question, what am I to do with all of this? How am I supposed to be? How do I be faithful to you? I didn't expect God to come down grandly to earth because as I read the New Testament, I don't see that he somewhere said that life will be flawless or easy or that everything will be great for you. I understand that in the world, evil reigns among much. Things seem worse and worse. Right now is the time where we need to pull ourselves together and not pose these questions to God, but instead put our trust in him. This is how I see it, and each person, I guess, has their own understanding. Rage, disappointment. Do these feelings arise in you? Of course. It makes me extremely annoyed, especially those spiritual people acting like they are better than Ukrainians. For example, some in America who write in blogs how we should forgive our enemies. I know that there are some awesome Christians who have written entire books, awesome books, about how they were in deep, dark times, about that darkness, about God and how difficult it was. They didn't talk about how you have to walk across the line and be so loving and so forgiving. They talked about pain. So for me, the people who write things like this, all this, just forgive, you're Christians after all. I know that with God's help, we will get through this, because we have no other choice. The Bible even writes this, but it is a hard and long process. If a Russian soldier came to my house, I know that I would have killed him. No problem at all. No questions asked. Because this is my home, my children, my loved ones. I would have protected myself, and in that moment, I would not be loving. To say that I would have mocked him or poured out my hatred on him, no. But to say I would love him, I don't know. Earlier, I never raised these questions, but here comes the maniac walking through the park who raped and tortured girls, cut their eyes out. How can we love this maniac? We have found ourselves in the time of maniacs. This is a separate era, a different set of rules. Actually, I wrote a little book of Christian fables, and the girl who illustrated for me, she is from Russia. She wrote to me every day, "Elina, how are you?" An awesome person. So, of course, I can't say that the entire nation is full of Nazis, but those that allow themselves to be like this, they are far from God, and I just can't make sense. Why do they do this? I don't know how to love them at a time like this. How do you see yourself as a leader in Save a Life International? How has your understanding of you and your role as a leader changed? Same as before? That's an interesting question, because 6 months have already passed, and the first month was extremely hard. After my C-section, I laid in bed thinking, worrying, trying to organize the escape of our clients. I could not rest until I knew every one of our clients was safe. We didn't know how many days were left until the enemy took Zaporizhia. It is still safe, thank God. Then we left for Lviv, and I feel like I didn't even see it. It was like a piece of me was just taken away from me, and like life is passing me by while my hands are tied. While I was there in Lviv, I saw a very cool video of a girl in Mariupol. She saw with her very own eyes the planes flying above, throwing bombs down, one, another one, a third. But God saved her, and she escaped through the Donetsk region, through Russia to Poland, and finally back to Kiev. When I think about it, it gives me shivers. And when she returned to Kiev, she said, all this time, when I thought about that I very well may die right now, I didn't think about how little I traveled, how aesthetically pleasing my life was, or something else. I thought about how little I told people about Christ. And for me, this struck me so hard and went straight to my heart. And she ended up helping over 30,000 people, evangelizing, giving out medicine. Now I see that this is my life. All I can do from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. at night is to just work only with our center, Save a Life. I can't think about anything else, just my children and the center. And here you are, pushing, and in this is a very great joy. I am glad we returned to Zaporizhia. I can serve God, and for me it's not enough. I want to serve more and more. This is the kind of time we are in. Now is the time to work hard, to think less about ourselves. And this saves. I see how many people are suffering there abroad, though they may be in better conditions, but as it turns out, we are here, and honestly, it is a very specific and special sort of opportunity to serve such a God. What places in the Bible became a support system for you? I can't even say. I read through all of the Psalms. I just wouldn't part with it. Waiting in line at the doctor, praying for Mark when he was in the ICU, I sat and read and prayed, and I just can't single out one place that I was steeped in. It was like instead of blood running through my veins, it was scripture. I just lived and breathed those psalms. There's nothing else that helped me as much as the Word of God. Some thoughts. What would you like to say from Ukraine to the world, to America, Poland, the West? When the war started and my husband and I started going through one of the most difficult times of our lives, our baby in the intensive care unit, and I was in the ICU after my C-section, and he was by himself, crying at home with our 2-year-old little daughter. Nothing encouraged me as much as prayer and support from all these Christians, many Christians from America who supported and prayed for me, even though they didn't even know me. And this love just didn't make sense. I didn't understand how people could worry so much, pray on their knees for hours, encouraging those that you don't even know personally. This love, I'm not familiar with it. I've never seen this before. I've never seen a person like this before. So for me, this is just an incredible example and just an incredible blessing. I know that the donations that people send, they're not going to some trash can somewhere. We have an amazing office right now. We are helping hundreds of women. We are able to show the love of God by providing groceries, diapers, to show them this love. It would not be possible if not for you. And I know that I would not be here if it weren't for your prayers. Maybe my city wouldn't even be here if it weren't for your prayers and support. So there aren't even words to describe how thankful I am to you.